All right, I think we are live. Hey everyone, it's Stephanie with Big Dog Mom. And if you are catching this on the replay, thank you so much for joining. So Big Dog Mom, this is the blog and brand that is dedicated to large and giant breed dogs and really trying, really with a passion and dedication to providing information and resources that will be of value to large and giant breed dog owners. So, all right, what are we going to be talking about today? Today we are talking about front door. I call them front door greetings, but essentially this is just taking control of your front door. If you're like me, this has been a source of much frustration and much challenge, especially with bigger dogs. Now, I will say I don't have as much experience with small dogs, and the combination of the two together. So what I will say is that you might have to take what I'm about to share with you and the process that I'm going to outline and adapt it to what your situation is. And that might include having to crate certain dogs, not being able to train together the way I did with Sully and Junior. And so I just want to throw that out there on the outset that I'm about to show you a process and kind of walk you through the steps of how I trained, basically Sully and Junior to have better manners in and around the front door when we have people over or people that knock on the door, the UPS guy, anything like that. I really wanted my dogs to have some semblance of manners and respect for my ability to kind of manage that front door. So a couple of housekeeping things. So the first thing is there is a full blog post, as always, with this topic, and that is in the description of this video. So you can click there and go to the full blog post that has the step-by-step directions that I'm going to show you just here briefly. I'm not going to go through that much detail here today, but I just wanted to illustrate it so you could see what I'm referring to. And then the second housekeeping thing is, and you'll see the link here, it's bigdogmom.com/front door. And so I just tried to make an easy URL for basically what is this. And so this is, I'm sure, backwards, and it has a little bit of a glare possibly. But this is just basically a worksheet that I thought might be helpful. You don't need it, but if you wanted to take notes, it does have all 5 of the steps. And so I thought it might just be a nice thing to kind of keep handy as we go through this. I'm calling it kind of a workshop, but it's just going to be sort of a demo. So anyway, so if you are here, if for whatever reason the sound is wonky, I do have a separate mic on and I have a long cord here because I'm going to have to walk around. So if you can't hear me as I'm moving about and showing you stuff, definitely let me know. And I will try to pop back here each time at each step so that I can grab any questions that you guys might have. Okay, so I think that was all of the housekeeping things that I wanted to share with you. A few caveats before I get started as well. And we're probably going to go, I'm going to try to shoot for 20 minutes, 30 minutes max is always my goal. But on the outset, I am not a trainer, and I have said that numerous times. So if you're expecting a trainer here, that's not who I am. I am somebody that has quite a bit of experience training my own dogs and having some success. And so really it's because I've been able to manage this and take control of my front door that I really, in essence of my passion and my drive for Big Dog Mom is to provide you that information. So take this for what it is. I'm not a trainer. So if you are if you're a certified trainer and you're watching this video, I will probably not do everything exactly like as the perfect, trainer would. So, but this is a force-free method. I always show you force-free methods and positive ways to better communicate and better, work with your dog. And so that's really what you're going to see. The other caveat to this, and it is because I have had a dog with aggression issues, is that this isn't for if you have so basically what I want you to know is if you need to get a certified trainer to help you with having people into your home because of your dog, and if your dog has reactivity issues, aggression issues, anything like that, if your dog is anything but friendly with friendly strangers, this isn't for you. It's only for the people who struggle with overgreeters, right? And that's what I would consider Sully and Junior. They are overgreeters in the classic sense, meaning they crowd the door, they want to be in the face and space of the guests. They just want to sniff and say hi and wagging tails and slobbering all over everything. So that's what I'm talking about, is just overgreeters and not having any ability and control in and around the front door. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Again, if you're dealing with reactivity and aggression, this isn't for you. But what I will say about that point is that I know a few of you have commented that, like, in and around the front door, you'll have dogs that will kind of bicker with one another, that they'll fight. They're kind of resource guarding, protecting, and they're wanting their space in and around the front door, and kind of picking fights with the other dogs. So what you might want to do, just as we start, and I'll probably comment as we go along, you may want to separate certain dogs and only work on certain dogs at certain times and only in certain pairs if you've got quite a few dogs. So that's just something to keep in mind. What I'm going to show you, and if you adapt this, I would love to know how this kind of works for you. But instead of belaboring this, hi Chrissy, thanks for joining. So it basically, let's get started. I'm going to show you the 5 steps. I'm going to be walking around. So like I said, if you for whatever reason can't hear me, or I get, where you're not able to see or whatever, I'm going to have to tilt the camera a little bit so you can see. And then I also have to wake up my sleeping dogs here. Yes, I need help too. Thanks, Faye. Yeah, so I'm happy you're here. All right, so I am using organic beef sausage. You could use whatever you want. I recommend some kind of high-value treats. In other words, if you feed kibble, I wouldn't do this with kibble. I would just use high-value treats. And so basically, all right, so for those of you that are just now joining, again, the link to the full description about front door greetings is in the description below, as well as a worksheet if you wanted to download that. There's the URL for that is bigdogmom.com/front door. So grab that if you want. All right, first step, define your place. And so this step just means that you want to decide ahead of time where you want your dog to go. And so that can be either, a crate that you bring into some space that is somewhat near. So you see, this is our front door. And then we've got a room right off to the side here. And so that's their place. They know that they need to go down into that carpeted area, and that's their place until I say, okay, you're released. Okay is my kind of release word. So, but I have a mat over here that I will show you. So you can see that blue mat over there on the floor. So that's just a cooling mat. You could use something like that. So like a bed or a blanket, anything like that will work. A big barker, if you've got that in the room, you could say, go to your bed. Anything really works. You just have to decide ahead of time what you want your place to be, the dog's place. And if you have multiple dogs, this is where kind of a room like this really works well, because both dogs fit in there and it's an easy place for them to kind of stay. They're not confined at all. They are totally free to, not obey essentially, but it's an easy one for them to understand. So think about, adapt that to your situation and figure out what that means for you. So when you're defining the place for the dog, though, so they don't automatically know, go to your bed or go to your place. You have to kind of help them understand that's what that means. And so there's lots of different ways that you can do this. I just started with sort of tricks and games. So where I would grab a clicker and some treats, and I would always go into this room. And so this was kind of the room that I used for like training. So as I would grab that clicker and treats, I would say, let's go to your place. And so we would always go to the same room. And so I would essentially it got to the point where I would grab a clicker and some treats, and both dogs would run into that room. So that's kind of what I mean, where you are starting to pair something happening with those words kind of go to your place, go to your bed, whatever it is. And so I have a bed outside, for example, a Kuranda bed. that, anytime I grab like a chew or a whatever I'm going to give the dogs, I'll say, get on your bed. And the dogs know to jump up onto that Kuranda bed, and then I'll give them their treat. So it's just a matter of kind of pairing that with something that happens. And sometimes you have to practice a few times, point to it, lure them with the treat, anything that you can do. I don't want to spend too much time on that, but essentially define your place, decide that ahead of time, and then you'll be good to go. And then just be consistent. So that would be the other thing. Okay, the second step. So teach a reliable sit-stay. And I hope this one really just makes sense. My hair is just out of control. Sorry. Teach a reliable sit-stay. So you can do that anywhere. It doesn't have to be in the dog's place. But as your dog is learning sit-stay, it's great to adapt that in that place where your dog is. So I talk about in the blog post kind of tricks and training in that spot, but then really working on and honing in on a better sit-stay. Meaning I can have them sit and stay, and so I always say sit is this and stay is that. I don't know if that's the technical right way to do it, but I've always done it that way. So I use the word and then I do this to sit and then that to stay. And sometimes I say stay, sometimes I just do the hand signal. So you'll see it's just my habit. So you'll see when I demo, that's what I'm doing. So it may not be perfect, but that's essentially what I'm doing. But basically I would just, I would have a ball. I would just make it super fun. And then, it's like the little test that they get really excited about. So how long can you stay? And sometimes I would do sit, stay, and then I would go hide. And then I would say, find mama. And so the dogs would come running around the corner and they would get so excited. So I try and I will do that just at random times, several times a day. So when I get up out of the seat and I'm working and then I grab treats or whatever, sometimes the dogs will run into this room because they know that's where we train sometimes. But then, sometimes it's a sit, stay in that spot, just in that moment. And then the next session, it might be the Find Mama, the hide and seek game. So I mix it up, and I think the variety keeps them super excited and enthusiastic about it. But this teach a reliable sit-stay can come in lots of different forms in different places throughout your house and outside. You just keep working on it. And what I would say your goal would be before you kind of really get into this front door greeting training is that they can sit and stay for, 10 seconds. I think if you're at that point, that's a pretty long stay that should work fine for when we get started with actually pairing it with kind of the knock on the door. Okay. If there are any questions, you guys let me know. All right. So now I'm going to start walking around. So if you can't hear me or whatever, you just let me know. So again, I've got my treats. And I'm just going to take a few out because this is going to be a slobbery mess. I'm sure it will. Okay. So are you guys ready? So the way I would start this is that when the dogs aren't expecting anything, I would randomly just go here, and I'm going to tilt this down so you can see me. And you'll see the dogs when they hear the door, maybe, unless they're just going to stay laying down because they're used to this. So let's see. Who is it? So I just really wanted to wake them up. Normally I wouldn't say that. I would just kind of come to the door and I would knock. Who is that? Who is that? All right, go to your room. Come on. Go. We got to go see. Oh, see my... Oh, come on. Sally, June, sit. Good. Okay. So basically what I would do, all I did was knock on the door and I took them to their place. And so when I would start out, normally, see, my dogs are kind of used to it, so it's a little hard to demo, but basically, as soon as they would hear that door knock, they would be crowding, they would be all right here, because that's what they've associated with a knock on the door. And so what I would do when I started is I would take a treat and I would lure them to their place, and you guys did so good. June, come. June, come here. Sit. And then I would just give them a treat, and then I would say, okay. And I would just release them right from that spot. And so I would do this 10, 20 times where they're almost like, yeah, we've heard the knock on the door, we get it, and they would just go to their space. So, let's see. Let's see who it is. Okay, go to your room. Go. So when you have dogs this big, they, so you can see Sully is like, he's totally, now Jewel, you gotta come closer, bud. I have a microphone on. There you go. There you go. Okay, Free. Okay. So I hope that was pretty clear. It's a little hard to demo, especially with a microphone that I am trying to not unplug. Stelly, you're stepping on the microphone. Salsa, off. Here, come here. Here, we gotta use a treat to get him off the microphone. Oh, go get it. It's on the floor. Right there. Stelly. Here, June, get that right there. Okay, so if anything was unclear, let me know. Okay, so basically all I did was knock on the door, tell them to go to their place, sit, stay, and give them a treat. And really that stay was pretty minor. There wasn't really a whole lot that I required of them in terms of staying. Now, when we add on other parts, other aspects of the door, that's where you'll want to kind of play with it, and you'll test the duration with how long they're sitting and staying. So let me just demo really quick. So basically what I would do is I would say, so I'm not just going to add the knock on the door, but I might jiggle the handle. So I might make sounds in and around the door that the dogs are used to hearing and associating with somebody being outside. Okay, yes, I know. Go to your face. Jojo, Jo. Sit. Good. Come on. Go to your place. So when I'm training both dogs, come here, Jojo. I wait until both are in here. This is just what I do. Again, like Sully, he goes right away. June takes a little bit longer. Stay. But that's how I would work on it. And so sometimes what you can do is you can also play with it in terms of, where the dogs are watching me, but they're not able to, I'm telling them to stay. And so they're staying there, even though the knock on the door, so they're thinking, okay, somebody is outside, but I'm telling them to stay. So I'm not opening that door if they get up. And so what will happen is that your dogs may get up. They may, of course there's toys in the way here. They may get up, and that's totally fine. All I would do is I would just take a treat and lure them right back. I wouldn't say anything to them. There's no there's no, don't do that. So basically you just lure them back, say, go to your place, sit, stay. And so that's why I use hand signals a lot, is so that I'm not saying it. I try not to repeat what I'm saying. But then, so if that makes sense, you guys just let me know. Seriously, any questions you have, I can see the comments, so just ask away. But the fourth step of this, and I told them to stay, if you noticed, and Junior walked away. I think he knows that I'm distracted and I'm really not telling him to stay seriously, which is not a good practice. So, Zeus will sit, sorry, Faye. Zeus will sit but won't stay. As soon as I turn my back, he is up. So you'll just have to work on that. And truly, I would make a game out of it. I would get a ball. I would do this at times when you're not doing the front door training. I would just, I would practice with, seriously, like the best way to teach sit, stay, quite honestly, is you can have the dog on a leash or not. They don't necessarily have to be, but I would get, like, if the dog is as close to me as where the camera is, so I'm, probably 3-4 feet away, I would take one step back. And if he stays that long, treat. And I would always go back to him and treat him for staying. So in other words, it's not stay and he stays a couple of seconds and then he comes to you. I wouldn't treat that because he didn't stay. So I hope that makes sense. But essentially, and so what you do is you start from this distance, and then maybe you do that 10 times, and then you do it from this distance. And then you do that 10 times, and then you do it this distance. And then sometimes then you go like this, right? And then you turn your back on the dog, and then you come back. And so you just do, you may have to do 50 iterations before you are able to get 20 feet away And in this case, you'll have to be outside, out of sight. So where you can go out of sight at a distance for longer periods of time and the dog will still stay there. So you have to work up to that. But let me show you this next step. So this is, the fourth step is basically knock on the door, and basically I'm going to be opening the door and kind of talking to an imaginary person. And this was a test for my dogs because as soon as I started talking, they thought, oh, somebody's out there. Oh my goodness, I want to go see. And so it took quite a few times for me to do that, where then I would have to quick shut the door, and then the dogs wouldn't be able to say hello to the imaginary person if they got up. But again, I didn't tell them no, I just lured them back with treats. So let me just show you kind of the way I do it. It's a little goofy, but, and I would change up, and I talk about this in the post, I would change up what I say, how I say it. Like I would pretend like I'm talking to a stranger, and then the next time I might be talking to like my best friend and giving her a fake hug. So I tried to just do like all sorts of different things to see if I could get them to get up, which is just a test. So then I would know what their triggers were, right? And those were the things I needed to work on, that basically they just couldn't resist. Okay, so really quick. So that, now I've got two dogs. Hey, Joan. June, come. June. They're totally bored. Junior, come. Here, I'm going to get a treat, or a toy. That will work. Okay, come here. Hey, June, look, what's this? June, come. Okay, so he comes for a ball, not for beef sausage. Really? You're so silly. All right. Oh, hold on. I got my microphone. Okay, so now the way this would work is I would kind of do the knock on the door. Uh-oh, who's that? Okay, go to your room. Go. So you can use a toy. I didn't mention that before. You can definitely use a toy. If your dog is not food motivated, stay. If he's not food motivated, I would use the toy, just their favorite little, a tennis, but whatever they're super excited about, you can use. Now, Junior, obviously he just thinks I'm going to play with the ball, but I wanted to show you. So I would knock on the door, I would have them go sit, stay, and then I would open it. So when they hear that jiggle, so that's what we were testing the last time, is me unlocking the door and opening it. And so the very first time you do this, you're only going to open it just like a crack. Okay? They stay, but they're both watching me. So I shut the door, and then I give treats. Good boy. Okay, free. And so the next time I do it, I would do this. So I would knock on the door. Let's see who it is. We say hi? June. Let's say hi. June. So I'm trying to get him to kind of, he wants the ball. Okay, come on. You gotta go to your place. Sit. Yes. Sit. June. He's giving me calming signals. Okay. So then what I would do is I would open the door. See, you can see them. So you see them watching me. I hope you can see the dogs. And so I would just say, oh, hey. Oh, you know what? Your chews are here. The box is here. So I would say, oh, hi. Oh, thanks so much. I appreciate the package. Thank you. And then I would shut the door. So that just mimics, right? The UPS guy just brought their little real pet food treats, and then I would shut the door, and then I would treat them. Good job. Okay, free. So that's the way I would do that. And I would do that probably 20 or 30 times, just playing with the dogs and their ability to kind of stay while they actually think and you're talking to this fake person outside. Okay, so let's see. Ashley, yes, our door it's not big compared to some Arizona doors, but yeah, it took a little bit, when we moved from the Midwest, it was like, oh boy, houses are built really different here in Arizona. Okay, so this is the last step. And now I have dogs that are super excited. So when I make this voice, they just think, oh, there's good stuff. There's fun times coming. So we do that sometimes just to get them so excited. Okay, but you may have a dog that's already over exuberant and you wouldn't want to do that. Okay, doorbell and guests. So this time, you're going to have to kind of work up to it. So basically, again, it kind of starts with the knock on the door, right? And then we're going to go out. Go to your space. Go. June, you're stepping on my microphone. Here, go. Come on. Go to your place. It's like herding a barge. Yes. June. Yes, good job. And so I'm not treating them. I'm saying sit and stay. And so this time, so now this is like the second step, right? Where I opened the door. And so you'll have to work on this where I'm stepping out of their sight. And I would start with just doing that for one brief second, and then I would shut the door, and then treat. Yes. And release. Okay. So then we're going to do it one more time, and I'm going to show you the doorbell. Let's see who it is. We got to see who it is. We're going to say hi. Okay. Go to your space. June, come. You're like mellow man today. Come on. Go over here. Yes, that's a good job. So normally if you're having them go to a specific place and not a room like this, you're basically going to do the same thing but point to the mat or whatever it is. Okay, stay. All right, so they're in a sit-stay. I hope you can see them. And then I'm going to open the door, and I'm going to step all the way out and ring the doorbell. And so they've already, like when I first started doing this, they've already paired that sound with somebody being out here ringing the doorbell. And the doorbell sounds from way upstairs. So it's it can make some dogs be like, okay, well, I think there's somebody at the door, but I hear the sound over there. So you'll have to kind of play with that for your own house. But essentially, so somebody's rang the doorbell, and I would do the fake conversation, and then I would treat. And then the last thing I would tell you to do, okay, free. Come on, guys. So the last thing I would have you do is actually have somebody in this kind of last step, and you can do it in the previous step as well, but have your kids or somebody that you know set up situations where they are actually coming in. So the dogs hear a different voice on the other side. And then sometimes when you get very advanced towards the end of this, when your dogs are sitting and staying and waiting for you to say, okay, so now you can greet the person that is here, you'll have an actual person there that they can greet respectfully and calmly. And so I used my son and daughter would just, probably 40 times would ring the doorbell, like when the dogs weren't expecting it. So they might be outside, and I would say, hey, go ring the doorbell. And so the dogs would run in, and they would think somebody was here, even though I knew it was. So then we'd practice. Go to your place, or go to your room is kind of what I say. Go to your room, sit, stay, and then I would open the door. My daughter and I would have a kind of a fake simulated conversation. And then I would let her in. I would shut the door, and I would release the dogs, and I would give them a treat at her. And so basically they're focused on taking those treats calmly from me, and they're sniffing her and they're happy, but they're not all over her and slobbering on her and body blowing and, the way it used to be. It's much more calm and respectful in and around the front door. But that's essentially how I trained it. And the dogs are probably, I would say 95% of the time when I am good about it, they are good about it. And so I try to never allow somebody to come in the house or answer the door without me forcing the dogs to go sit in their place. Like, I try to be very consistent. And so if you allow them to not do it sometimes and then to do it other times, then you end up with, and only like 50% time they are orderly and manageable in and around the front door. So your job is to be consistent. And so, I hope that makes sense. If there are any questions, so Ashley says, have you experienced someone actually walking into the house? Do they still stay or come to greet? So they come to greet when I release them. And so at first they didn't, but I would use the treats and I would lure them back, sit, stay. And then I would come back to the guest. So the guest is my daughter who knows not until mommy says, okay, now say hello to the dogs. She knows to just stand there. And so you'll have to set up situations where the person who's walking in isn't reinforcing the bad behavior. So my dogs know when I say sit, stay, you don't get up until I say okay. And that's kind of my released word. It's probably not perfect, but that works for us for this front door kind of management. And so that's it in a nutshell. I hope that answers the question. We are right at 11:30. So if you have any other questions, I am happy to answer. Again, the key to this, number one, is consistency. And number two, I would just say, it really is where, you have to make it a priority. Otherwise, it's not going to get any better. I did mention in the beginning that you can train your dogs together. With this exercise the dogs were always together because they greet people together at the front door. So my thought process was, well, then they need to be trained together. But they don't necessarily have to. I mean, you could train them one at a time. And so each dog has an understanding of that, sit, stay, on their place, whatever that place is. And, as long as it's clear to both of them or all of your dogs what the requirement is when somebody knocks on the door or when they ring the doorbell, that they've associated those sounds with some sort of behavior or action that then they get treats for, right? And so this is sort of operant conditioning in a sense, that while that you are classically sort of pairing that sound with doing something, they're getting treats for the behavior of sitting and staying in some spot. So I hope that makes sense. But that was my thought process to train both of these giant lugs together. And they really are both just over-greeters and super friendly. And I know that Sully is super highly trainable and really responsive. He is on it. You ask him to do something and he'll show you 5 different behaviors. Which one do you want, Mom? Junior is you have to wake him up because he's just a big lug who, unless he's playing with a ball, he's really pretty tired. And so you have to kind of work with the personalities of your dogs and use certain aspects of their personalities to your advantage. So Sully's trainability is what I used to get Junior on the same page, because Junior's personality, he's like a bulldozer. And so he wants to greet and he doesn't care who's in his way. And so I had to use, like I said, Sully's good training behavior to help Junior understand, no, sit, stay is actually a better choice for you. So, but you do that just force-free. There's no, I don't need to reprimand them. It's just constantly kind of luring, getting them to their place, sit, stay, and then, testing around different sounds around the front door, fake conversations. And I just kind of had fun with it, quite honestly. My kids would just crack up laughing at the the imaginary friends I had outside. So I would just make it kind of funny, but it worked for us. And like I said, our success rate, I think, proves the ability of this process to work. And so I would love it if you guys would try and let me know how it goes. Truly, pop in and let me know in the Big Dog Mom community. And if you're not already a member of that, definitely, it's just bigdogmom.com/community, and you can join our group over there. But definitely let me know how it goes. And if you have any questions, certainly, if you have any challenges or struggles, hey, my dog is doing this, that, or the other, and it's not working exactly the way you said, and then we just troubleshoot and manage it, because every dog's going to be a little different. They may not work, as easily, and you may have different dynamics between dogs that you'll have to work on. But I do think it's possible, and I think this process works. So I hope you'll put it to the test and let me know how it goes. Okay, and that's it. And then if you just want to go to bigdogmom.com/front door, and you can rewatch this and take notes. That's that little worksheet that I mentioned at the beginning. And then the full blog post is in the description. So check that out as well. I hope this was helpful. You guys are amazing. And anyway, have an amazing weekend. I know it's hard to believe that it's March 1st already, but it is. So anyway, you guys have an amazing weekend, and I will talk to you next week. All right, take care. Bye for now, guys.